goodness. I have to say your lighting on that site is really quite flattering. It's
Oh, thank you.
I don't know why, but it's very very
I don't
natural.
either.
I'm like overlit over here because I'm lighted for the other cameras and not for the webcam. But
I've got a window on this side and a little ring light on this side that's turned down pretty good, but that's about it.
that's what it is. Yeah, Seabass is nodding. Yes, he can, yeah. Anyway, so welcome back.
Thank you.
We got
Oh my
Jacob
gosh,
Ross on the line. Just the two of us today. Mike is
Awesome.
still in parts unknown.
He probably thought it was 10 p.m. as well.
No, he's out of town. He's been out of town for I don't know weeks now. Seabass,
Probably like 2 weeks.
probably 2 weeks.
Yeah, probably
yeah.
two.
Yeah. So I've been
Just
punting on the podcast. I've been bringing in a guest and just talking to people I want to talk to. So
gotcha. Love it. Well, I miss Mike, but I'm super happy to talk to you.
we'll just have to come out here and see Mike.
That's true. That's true. Or, like you were saying, both of you guys make a little road trip. Do like the Massonomics guys, do a little road trip. Hit a few gyms, do a few episodes.
See, the difference between us and Massonomics is that their apparel still makes money.
Oh. Damn.
Well, look,
Yeah, I know. I
that's one of
appreciate
y'all's
that.
first shirts.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I still wear my gear.
Sorry, what?
I said I still wear my gear from you guys.
Well,
and
thank
when you guys first opened up, you sent me a little card that's up in our gym.
Ah,
Yeah.
cool. So you and Tom Callis have Be Better Barbell.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Yes, we do.
some alliteration. Some.
Yeah, we just hit. We just hit 1 year open. So we started our online training business like March of 2020, right around when COVID was really starting to rev up there, and that had nothing to do with the starting of that business. It was just good timing, I guess, on our part, or luck on our part. But after a few years of that, we started getting people who were asking, could we ever come see you? Is there a place that we could train, et cetera, et cetera? And, we'd always talked about maybe doing a gym. And I was both inspired and a little bit horrified by you and Mike's story, just with the trials and tribulations of opening a gym.
Yeah.
And, I just told Tom, I was like, for me specifically, it's got to be a pretty specific application for it to make sense. It has to be something that's reasonably close to our houses. And then it has to be, affordable. In the worst case scenario, we can cover, rent essentially on a month-to-month basis, and we just have a really expensive home gym. But, and then I guess the third thing would be, could we equip it without, have to take out some sort of massive loan, et cetera, something like that.
Right.
Because for us, it's either you do it like that, or you go the other way, where you do take out a massive loan, you build a building, and you go all in on it. And, for both of us in terms of our lives, Tom has his full-time job as a lineman, which takes, tons and tons of hours for him. And then for myself, just traveling, I have a full-time job working for a nonprofit. I don't know that if I made that decision, that'd be a huge career shift. And confident I could do it, but that would be a massive undertaking. So we found a building that used to be a lawnmower repair shop. It's like 7 minutes from my house. It's about a minute and a half from Tom.
Oh, wow.
And it's not that big, but literally we signed the lease on a Saturday, and by Monday morning we had everything in there except for a full rack of dumbbells. That's the only thing we didn't have. So flooring, turf, bars, machines. We had 54, 45-pound plates between the two of us. I don't even know how many specialty bars and all that stuff we had. We had Nautilus leg curl, leg extension, a Nautilus lower back machine, really old school, like lat pull down row, reverse high, all that stuff. Mono, couple power racks, platforms. We just had all that stuff in our houses. And so, we had it all in there by Monday morning, and the landlord, he lives close by, he stopped by and he goes, "You guys don't fuck around, do you?" I said, "Well, it's easy to not do that when you have all this stuff in your house that you just have to transport it a few minutes away." Guys came out and helped, of course. Cam, I don't know, did you ever meet Cam back in the day?
I did not.
Our buddy Cam?
I know
Cam
you're
is
talking
fantastic.
about. I've not met him.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic. So he came out and helped, and a few other buddies, and we just got it all moved in and done, and we're a year into it now, and gosh, I think we might have just broke even.
Oh, jeez.
I
wish we broken even. But again, in the first year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of the business, right? It's not a business that you're going to see a massive return in quickly, unless you're really diving hard on the training side. But even then, that's, again, a whole nother conundrum in terms of work and all that. And also for us, we didn't set it up to be a massive financial shifter for us, even if it is successful. Just something kind of like when you buy a house, you go get like a home equity loan and you buy a second house to rent out. You're just hoping to cover your payment on your mortgage and maybe a little bit extra each month, so that it's kind of an investment long term. Right. And for us, it was kind of that idea is, could we have a community and kind of build up what I think we all fell in love with strength training, for, which is the community, right? It's the people that are around you. There's nothing out really where we live, anything like what we have. And then, could we get our garages back? Which was nice. We kind of need that
my car
in the winter.
Inside when it's snowing out. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom for the first time in his life, and gosh, I don't even know how old Tom is now, 34 or something like that. For the first time in his life, he's parked indoors, this past winter, because he's always had a garage gym, always. So that was kind of nice. And then, we actually fell into a little bit of training. We had a local high school athlete who lives in Tom's neighborhood reach out via Instagram. We didn't advertise. We didn't even talk about doing it, and said, "Would you guys train me? I saw your website and da-da-da." And Tom and I talked about it and said, "Well, we'll kind of do a limited run here, and we accept a very few number of athletes that we work with. But that's been fun. We have a really good hockey player. We have a BMX rider who's really talented. Softball. Actually, she was 11 when she started training with us, which is pretty amazing to have an 11-year-old, girl who wants to come out to a former lawnmower repair shop and lift. And she is just, oh my gosh, she's so strong, so talented. She just trap bar deadlifted 240. Beltless and strapless and all that stuff. Yeah, it's pretty good for 11.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it's been fun, honestly. It's been fun. We have started to build that community that we were hoping for. For me, it gets me a little bit back into some training on a very limited level in person, which normally I have to travel somewhere to do that. So that's kind of fun for me. It's really fun to work with a few kids. I like that development and that excitement about the gym. As they're finally, seeing weights go up, and that one first kid who started with us has almost gained 30 pounds in 9 months. Training. And so, it's just really cool to see that progress and that excitement. Like, you remember that, you miss it from when you were starting out. And, of course, we had our one kind of big issue. We had a little backup in one of the bathrooms, which turned into an entire septic tank exposure, which turned into an entire just running of the line. And, that was a few grand literally down the toilet to get all that solved. But other than that, it's been great.
And that was on you guys?
Yeah, because unfortunately, when the landlord got down in there, there was some stuff flushed down the toilet that shouldn't have been. Now, you could argue, and I think probably logically could have argued that that was maybe who was ever there before us, because the backup was pretty far in, and maybe just from us having a little bit higher volume of usage than it did previously, it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But there's no way to prove it, right? So it is what it is. There's something down there. It's not supposed to be there. Well, falls back on us. And to be fair, he was super kind. He rented his own excavator, pulled the septic tanks, or uncovered them himself. We didn't have to pay for any of that. We just had to pay for the actual plumbing and stuff like that. So yeah, he was pretty fair about it.
We have not had the giant toilet blowups here. We did have an astronomical toilet leak for a while. That was difficult to detect, and see, I am forever like a conspiracy theorist around water meters, because I don't think they're accurate at all. I think that there's a multiplier in there to make it look so much worse and be more expensive. Like, we could have filled the entire building with water for the amount of what they said that we filled. Like, we could have turned it into a swimming pool. And so that it never made sense to me. I had the inspector come out and look at the meter, and he's like, "Oh, it's working. Like, I can see that it's turning." It's like, yeah, it's turning like 5 times faster than it's supposed to. But anyway, it was a battle I lost. However, it did get fixed. And back in the day, though, when we were in this building with ST, like the first year, there was on a meat day, the whole septic system backed up. Well, it's supposed to be connected to sewer, but it did not act like it was. And there was lifting the manhole covers full of just shit.
Oh my gosh.
It was so disgusting.
Terrible.
It was really terrible. Really, really bad. And
yeah.
So when we signed the lease here, it was like, so the septic system is good, right? I mean, the sewer, whatever, is it everything? Oh yeah, everything's good. And it's like, well, we did have other issues with it, but yeah, the joys of opening a gym. At least you guys already had the equipment, because like we did not. Obviously, we had nothing.
Yeah.
We had zero.
Yep. And
we had to order it during the pandemic, and it took forever to get everything that we have. And I'm happy with the stuff that we have, but goodness gracious. It was a challenge.
Oh, I could imagine. Yeah, I mean, thankfully we had just been essentially, stockpiling equipment, because when COVID hit, before that, I would go train somewhere. I mean, there was times, and I think any strength athlete who's, man, maybe this is too blanket of a statement, who's like really cared about their strength, has driven distances to train in gyms before.
Yeah.
Because that's just what you used to do. You would go find the best people that you could kind of vibe with, good environment, and you go train there. I mean, I used to wake up on Saturdays and drive like an hour and 15 minutes one way to train at this gym called Jacked, and it's down south of Aurora a little bit in Montgomery. But anyway, the point is that, I would just drive to gyms wherever it was, drive to Tom's house. It didn't matter to me. But then when COVID hit, and then I almost died.
Right.
I talked to you guys post that.
Yeah.
I think a few months after that.
Yep.
It was the last time that I spoke to you guys. I just said, well, I don't want to mess around with trying to figure out gyms. And, here in Illinois, things were shut down for a pretty good amount of time. So I just started ordering stuff as it came up, Facebook Marketplace, friend trying to move. They had some stuff and just kind of piecing it together on my end. Tom had more stuff than I did for sure. But again, between the two of us, it's like mega desk in the office. We took two desks and made a mega desk. We made a mega home gym. So it's worked out well. Like the Nautilus stuff, it's some of not the first line, but it's probably the second line of stuff from them.
Uh-huh.
It's definitely from the 70s. It's old.
Wow.
But gosh, that stuff, it feels good, right? It's chained instead of cables, so it doesn't break. The seats and the leather and all that stuff's in good shape. It was taken care of. We got it from a school not far from here that finally upgraded their weight room. So you can imagine how long that stuff had been in that school. and they were just giving it away. We just did, please somebody come and take it.
Wow.
And yeah, we said okay, we'll take it. So we got a flatbed out there and loaded up a bunch of stuff from that school. But anyway, I don't know that some of those machines have significantly evolved past Arthur Jones' design. That Nautilus shell, that cam that he invented to kind of even out the resistance curve. I mean, those machines still feel great. I mean, I have no issue with them at all. I wish I had a couple other pieces of it, to be honest. The old Nautilus dip machine was one of my favorites. The little stairs you'd walk up on, and you'd put the belt on, and I thought that was so cool. And then they had the I'll tell you which Nautilus machine I hated was the it was you could do a dual arm, but each one was independent. The tricep machine, where you put your arms up and then you'd kind of extend your arms out. It was like this weird L-shaped pad that you kind of put your palm into. There was nothing to hold on. I could never get that to feel right. But other than that, I liked most of the other Nautilus stuff pretty well. But anyway, we just figured it out. And yeah, there's some stuff for sure we would like to upgrade as it makes sense. But everything you need and more is in there to get strong. It's way more than I ever had growing up. It's way more than your local gym has in terms of actual strength equipment. And Cam just squatted 875 on a Mars bar to a box, bare kneed, bare shoes, or no shoes, barefoot. Like I said, bare knees, not even sleeves. And if he's basically hitting any sort of variation, 900 pounds fast, it's a good place to train.
I guess so. How many square feet you have?
Oh my gosh, I'd have to do the math. It's not much. Maybe 2,000. Maybe. Yeah, it's small.
Yeah. So I can't remember. You haven't been in this building, have you?
I have not.
Yeah, probably about the size of our. There's a small side and a large side here. It's probably just like the small side where ST used to be.
Yeah,
the whole place.
Yeah, I know it from the videos.
Yeah,
so that's probably about right. Yep, yeah. And I kind of know where you guys are. I remember from when I was in Sacramento last, which would have been like 2018. Goodness gracious, 18. Yeah, I think it was around 18. Yeah. It was Lou's last year in LA. And I remember when I came to y'all's. Are you still in the same studio?
No.
Where you recorded? That's
no.
That's
we're at the
okay.
We're in the. That's another story. We're in the metal building that's connected to the gym space.
Okay.
So there's
gotcha.
like
I just remember
square foot spot here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I just remember staying at or going by Mike's place. And then going over to y'all's where y'all were recording at the time. And I think I remember Mike pointing out like, oh, that's where ST used to be, like way back in the day. And so I because it's downtown, right?
Yeah. We're as downtown as we could possibly be. We're less than a mile from the Capitol.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of roughly remember the area, but no, I've got to, I mean, it's the same thing that, I think we've all been saying since COVID hit. Like everybody has some places that they just stopped going to because COVID disrupted life in so many different ways. And, for me, it was a career shift in a lot of ways. It just coincided with Luol retiring. Mm-hmm. And then that, led into the South Sudan national team. And then that Olympic run that we did, which was just incredible. And, it's just changed my life in terms of the way that I move and when I have time to move and then the amount of time I'm gone. I mean, I'm gone from home. The Olympics was 2 months travel straight.
Yeah.
We did 5 or 6 different countries in 2 months. And then we have all the qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers. The World Cup was seven weeks. You have AfroBasket, which is about 5 or 6 weeks. I mean, you start adding it up on top of the nonprofit trips that I take. It's at least 2.5, 3 months a year. I'm somewhere else overseas, not even in the States. And so it makes it hard on my end to say, yeah, I'm going to go take another, 5, 6 days and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Kids are getting bigger and stuff's going on. And man, it's just changed. It's not bad. It's just different.
Yeah. Actually, we did have you on last year to talk about, like, we previewed the Olympic basketball situation with you last year, and I want to talk more gym stuff, but let's transition over to basketball for a little bit. Mike and I and our third who comes in to do media reviews with us, Dean, we watched the Netflix series on the on USA Basketball and everybody that played, and it was more whatever. But we felt like South Sudan really got the short shrift in that. I don't know if you watched it, but there was not a lot about South Sudan. That part sucked.
Yeah, I didn't watch it because I'm not the biggest fan of us. We lost that warm up game by 1 point, which was terrible. And then, of course, in the actual Olympics, we lost by 16 or 20 or something like. I mean, they never ran away with it, but it was also never a close game.
Yeah.
They were also at full strength and had Kevin Durant, and they just played us like 2 weeks before, so they kind of knew what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah.
We wouldn't probably have not agreed to that friendly game had we known they would end up in our pool. We agreed to all that before they did the random drawing and what group do you end up in, and we ended up in the worst group by far. I mean, Serbia, incredible, so talented. They got second, I think, at the World Cup, and then they got third at the Olympics. Like they're a powerhouse. And then we got USA, and then we got Puerto Rico, who also is consistently an Olympic team. Few NBA players on that roster. They're very, very good. So we got a tough draw. But no, I didn't watch it. I'm not surprised. Like, I don't think people still really understand, that South Sudan's a country. Some recent political stuff, I think, has maybe awakened a couple of people to it just because the name's been in the news. But they usually just assume it's a part of Sudan and you're just referring to a region, not an actual country.
Right.
And then the second part is, I don't think people know how to get a hold of us, in the sense of, like, we're so new. We don't have an office. We don't have a publicist. We don't have we have like a team manager, but that's Lawal's brother, and he's pretty much just on ground. Like, I'm just trying to think, if I was an outside organization, it's like, I want to get in touch with you guys. You kind of would have to have Lawal's cell phone number, or you'd have to know somebody like me on the auxiliary staff and just email me, I guess. I mean, it's just, I don't even know how you would get a hold of us. And as well, we were pretty dialed in for the Olympics. We didn't really have time or space to make a lot of room for, some sort of production or something like that. And some of that was by choice, but I don't think they ever even called us that I know of. And I would know if they did. They never did.
Yeah, it was only game footage. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Period. Yeah. But it was disappointing to not see more, because it's such a great story.
Yeah, I mean, for us to go, unranked to the Olympics, in a full Olympic cycle, so 3.5, 4 years, it's never been done. I don't think it'll probably ever be done again. I think that the circumstances of how it happened are so unique to the people that were playing and involved in it that you won't see that happen again. You won't see another country that didn't have a program. You just happen to have a very benevolent guy who was world-class expert at what he did, who paid for a couple years of it, where the government wouldn't, who just happened to know an incredible staff of coaches and trainers to come in and do a job. And then you also have a group of people who, due to long-running civil war and refugee status, were essentially unknown as an actual, cultural group. Like, there's South Sudanese all over the world, but they've never been represented. They've never came together and said, hey, we are South Sudanese together for this thing. It's never happened. If you watch any college basketball, there's almost a South Sudanese guy on probably every 4 or 5 teams if you watch a game now.
Wow.
And we're the first time that anyone's given them an ability to say, hey, let's come together and play as South Sudanese. Mm-hmm. If you've had a national team for a long time, like Serbia, I think they gave us a pin that said 100 years of Serbian basketball. They've been playing basketball for 100 years as a national team. I mean, that is just phenomenal to me. But that's why they're so good, because from the time they're probably like maybe 10, 12 years old, they're playing together every summer. They know who the guys are. You know, it's Jokic calling Jovic and calling Bogdanovich. And, hey, let's all get together and start camp. And that's the way national teams are supposed to go. And we just threw together the best 12 players that we could find who cared, and just something beautiful came out of it. And I don't see a scenario like that ever brewing again, to be honest. And it is an incredible story. And, you know, we had we had a crew following around documenting everything that we were doing. It's something that Luol also was independently financing. I'm pretty hopeful that that will get released. They were thinking maybe like Sundance next year. You know, I don't know if it'll get in, but like that kind of is the timing side of it. Because that footage goes back for pretty much the whole run almost. So that would be incredible. I don't know how you're going to fit it into a feature length film style. Like, it's so much story.
Yeah.
But that's happening. And then on the podcast side, I do know there's, and I don't want to give away anybody's thunder, but there's a gentleman who is working on a podcast about this story, who has won a couple big awards for sports journalism in podcasting, and he wants to tell this story. And I know he's been working on it. So I don't know where that project is either. I gave an interview for it. But if that happens, I think that'll shed some light on it as well. But it's a story that needs to be told, because it's bigger. You know, it's such a common saying. It's bigger than basketball. It's bigger than football. It's bigger than whatever the sport is. But this really is bigger than that. I mean, you have a group of people who, like I said, you know, disjointed in every way you could possibly think of, and came together and did something that's just insanely hard to do, even under the best circumstances. And, you know, I think the cherry on top is that nobody was paid. We didn't pay players. We didn't pay coaches. It was all, every single bit of it was just volunteering for people. And when do you see world-class level achievement in anything just out of the sake of somebody's heart?
You don't. Yeah, you don't. So what's the current status with the team? I realize we're 1 year post Olympics. What's going on now?
The machine keeps churning. So it's Afrobasket coming up, which is African Championship. They do Eurobasket, European Championship. They do like an Asian Cup. You know, I don't know if the Americas. I'm sure they do some version of it. Just nobody pays attention to it because we just watch the NBA. But I'm sure there's some version of American Cup. I don't know. But it's the same idea of, you have regional championships that feeds into World Cup qualifying, which lasts about a year. It's about a year of no major tournament. You're just playing qualifying tournaments, which depends on which group you're in, but 4 or 5. And it's still within your same region or continent. And then from that, you go to World Cup. And then from World Cup, you go to Olympics. So it's the same cycle over and over and over. Right after the Olympics, or the subsequent year, is regional championship or continental championship, kind of a year-long qualifying, World Cup, Olympics. So if we make it, I'll be out your way.
Oh, yeah, no kidding, huh? Do we know what venues are they using?
I have no idea. I don't think they know. I mean, they say they have a plan, but, you know, if anybody spent any time in Los Angeles, it just makes you shudder to think about how they're going to pull off the Olympics.
Well, and I know it's not all just in L.A. They've spread it out over some of it over the state. It wouldn't be shocking to me if some of it was even up here, to be honest.
Honestly, I feel like the Bay.
I mean, to me,
the Bay Area for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sebastian's chiming in here.
Bay, probably like Seattle or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying they should spread it out if they're smart. You know, sometimes the issue with that is, you know, powers that be kind of get honed in on, you know, it needs to be here because it says, you know, LA Olympics, and we have the space and the venues, which is true. It's just you can't get anywhere. You know, I heard that they're talking about housing the majority of the athletes at the UCLA campus.
Yeah, they've done that.
And
before,
I'm like, okay, I know where that is. We used to practice there. A lot of NBA guys would practice there in the summer. That's pretty far from Staples and traffic, right? That's pretty
Yeah.
far, from maybe like the new where the Clippers are playing, in traffic. Like, I just don't know how they're going to reasonably expect to pull off that many millions of people coming in, unless they do spread it out. So I'm hopeful that they are.
Yeah. The last time was what, 1984 that it was in LA?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. I was at Loyola Marymount before that, and they built like a brand new gym facility there that was used for Olympic weightlifting back when we had Olympic weightlifting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do. You really can't get around LA very quickly at all. You can't really change the cadence of the games. They last how long it's prescribed how long they go on, and so
Right.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but spreading it out is really sort of the only option. And I think that unlike going to some place like, I don't know, like Paris or Tokyo or whatever, where the transportation is a little different situation and the venues are a little closer together, you can, if as a spectator, if you want to see a couple of different sports, you could do that. I do not believe that will be the case in LA. I believe that you have to commit to seeing, one sport. You might see preliminary rounds and you might see medal rounds, or you might only see one or the other or whatever based on availability. But I don't think you're going to be able to bounce around at all.
Yeah. People, they ask me, well, how was it, being in Paris for the Olympics? And I'm like, we weren't in Paris. I wish we were in Paris. We were in Lille, France. And I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but that's my Texas accent. How my brain sees is Lille, France. But they took a domed soccer stadium there, and they built the most massive black curtain ever and literally put it right down the middle. It's wild. Wow. And on one side, they put whatever the turf or whatever was down, they built a handball court on top of it. And on the other side, they built a basketball court. And so everything except for the semifinal and final games were played up there in Lille for just handball and basketball. Everything else was in Paris that could be, obviously, like surfing and stuff like that. But everything else was in Paris. And then we were, on a high-speed train. It was about an hour, 15-minute train ride to Paris. So we took a train directly from London, because that's where we finished our, pre-Olympic games, to Lille directly. And then once we finished playing all of our, we had 3 games, we took a high-speed train to Paris, and I got on a plane and left. I mean, I went to Juba. I went back to South Sudan for a celebration. But yeah, I was in Paris for about 3 hours at the airport. Wow. It would have been cool to like walk around and see stuff. And, as a coach, you get some access to things. It's not just you can go in anything, but there is a system for putting in for tickets. It's different than what normal people get access to and all that. So I could have went and saw, like speed climbing, like rock climbing, and, some other kind of just funky stuff that I think is fun. But nope, I was stuck in Lille. And
well,
which was a beautiful city. It's just there's nothing to do.
Paris is wonderful. It was cool because we were in Paris the year before, so 2 years ago. So it was cool to watch it on TV and see, places we'd been and stuff like that. It was that part was cool.
Yeah. But
I mean, I couldn't imagine that you would actually have a lot of extra time to do stuff during as a coach or a player or whatever. I know that like in the documentary series, you see the U.S. Athletes going to different venues and seeing different things, but not a bunch. They really, like, the 2 or 3 things they did, they shot a lot of footage at, let's just say.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they didn't do a lot, but they were on a whole different program than the rest of us. So they erected an athletes village in Lille because it didn't exist, and it looked like you're watching like ET or something when they built this like outpost out in the desert, It was like this like random field, and they literally like put gravel down, like 10-foot high fencing, had guys with like submachine guns standing guard. I mean, it was wild because they were worried. There was some arson stuff on trains right leading up to it. Like they were worried, as you want to keep everybody safe. I understand that, but like it didn't. It wasn't like UCLA campus or where you kind of come in and modify it. It was like literally like you felt like almost like you were in prison. Like it was like just kind of erected for this specifically. And Giannis tried his best to stay there. He stayed one night, and the next day he's like, "Sorry guys, I can't do it." He just went and got his own hotel. He's like, "I can't stay here." And then the U.S. they didn't even try. They stayed somewhere else. I heard they got a boat.
Yeah, my understanding is they had a cruise ship that was parked. Yeah.
So they were moving in a little bit different way than we were, and I think some of the guys actually stayed in Paris. To be honest, I think some stayed there, and they just got high-speed train or a car to take them to games.
I believe that entirely.
I mean, I would have too if I had the option. To be honest, I would have as well.
Yeah, it's just way out in the middle of no place with not a thing to do. I didn't realize that they'd had to build athlete accommodations. I know they didn't build any venues. And I don't think California, LA, I don't think any new venues are being built. I think they're all using pre-existing stuff, which is, I think, the way it should be done. Because there's just a massive amount of waste to build facilities in all these places. I think the Olympics, I mean, it's cool to go to other countries and stuff, but I think that like the most cost-effective way forward for the Olympics is for there to be like an Olympic village in a place, and that's where the Olympics always are.
Or you do it kind of what you're saying, like Paris did it, and I think like you said, LA's doing, where just nothing new is erected. I mean, you just utilize what's there, and if it doesn't have the infrastructure, then you're not able to even submit a bid. It's not even like, okay, we'll get it and then we'll backfill. Like, no, you have to have it. I remember reading an article about the Beijing Olympics, which I think at the time were the most expensive Olympics ever. Yeah. And like something like 60% of those buildings are just vacant now that they built for the Olympics. I mean, they're just vacant. They're just not even being utilized. And actually, for the World Cup, we played 2 friendly games in China. It's my first time, and only time so far that I've been to China. And we were playing at a stadium that sat, I think, 8,000 that had never been used and was been sitting there for 5 years. It wasn't even tied to the Olympics. It was just built. And somebody had a lot of money. They built it next to this hotel, just sitting there, and everybody's just content for it to sit there. And we're sponsored by Peak, which is a Chinese brand of basketball stuff. They sponsor a couple of NBA guys. It's actually really nice stuff, to be honest. It's very quality. And the guy that runs it, if he could, I'll put it this way, if he could shift it out of China, he would. He can't. There's some laws against that. But the point is that he organized this tournament for some teams that they sponsor. Hey, let's just come play friendlies together. And, the World Cup was in the Philippines, so it was far, relatively speaking, to do that. And he just found this, this venue that wasn't far from their headquarters in terms of distance, maybe 40, 50 minutes away. And they were like, we literally are like going in there, and there's like crews are going around like dusting off cobwebs and all this. Like, it's never been used. It's just sitting here for 5 years. And maybe that was COVID related. I don't know, but I'm just saying like what a waste. It's just incredible.
That's crazy. Well, to shift back to gyms for a moment here, I told you I had like a topic in mind, and this is something that's been bugging me. And I had a conversation with our gym manager Kyle about this the other day too. Way back in the day, when I was involved in the first powerlifting gym that I went to, and then super training, people trained together, like literally. People trained together, and you would share a bar, and like it especially in the ST days, it was kind of mandatory because there was only like a 16-hour training windows for the week. It was like 4 hours, 4 days a week, and you really couldn't train outside of that. And so there's only so much equipment, and you have to work with people. And I see what we have here. We have a lot of USAPL. We have a lot of drug tested lifters, period. And they're kind of in and out at different times of day for whatever reason. And so many of them train entirely alone. And I don't think that any of them would not benefit from training in a group all the time, especially a relatively consistent group. Because you talk about all of them got coaches. They're, almost all online coaches, not 100%. And they're like walking around with their phones, reading what they're supposed to do next. And they get on a bar and they're on there for a long time and no one ever works in with them. And the real magic of training in a group of people, whether it's the same group or whether it's just the people that in the gym, is that you have that many more eyes on you, and some of those people have a lot of reps, and at least that's what I experienced back in the day, and could comment on form or weight selection or things that an online coach is having to pull off of a form check video or whatever. And it's just an entirely different thing. And my real question is, I don't have any doubt that everybody would be better if they trained more that way. But what the hell happened, and when did it happen?
I love the question. What the hell? What the hell, man? Jeez. It's actually a really interesting thought process. And I would say that as much as we can at our place, we try to encourage the opposite of that, in that anytime, let's just say, like I said, we don't work with a lot of athletes, but let's say it's like a Monday afternoon, I'm in there training somebody. I'll have a member say, "Oh, can I use that?" I'm saying, yes, 100% of the time, every time. It doesn't matter if I'm on it or not, we can work together. That's just the atmosphere that we try to promote. If we have, we'll have a member sometimes, hey, on Wednesday, I'm going to do a heavy lift. Do you know if anybody will be in the gym at 4 or 5? Because we're that small. It could just be empty. It's possible. And I'm like, hey, let me connect you to this guy because he's normally in there and you guys can work together or you can spot each other. As much as we can, we try to promote that it's a community gym, that everybody, you can do what you need to do, of course, but that it's appropriate and okay and encouraged to do it with or around somebody else. Every Friday night, we have Friday night squat night. And a good example was this last one with Cam hitting that 875. Tom's brother was graduating from his residency program in med school, so Tom wasn't able to be there. I didn't need to lift that day heavy, so I was like, hey, I'll show up because I just know that A, you need a spot to be safe, and then B, like you said, just having eyes on it. How did it move? How did it look? How did it feel? Can I take this jump? Can I not take this jump? I don't know how you could safely do that on your own. So, I'll give you my 2 thoughts on it just off the top of my head, and I'm sure it's like everything else, you'll think about it and come up with something different later. But I would say that one side of it is probably that, we for sure have a culture in lifting now of it not being okay to max out. I don't know how many times you see on Instagram or whatever social media you follow where it's like, we're building, not testing.
Yeah.
And I understand it. I get what you're saying. But back in the day when conjugate was much more popular, I think geared lifting was more popular. And even people like the Lily Bridges, where it was they would take 3 hours to go up to the heaviest single they could go to, and that was their training for that day.
Right.
It was completely acceptable to try to push weight on a variation or a main lift on a consistent basis. It wasn't this massive, meso macro cycle peaking this and that just for the gym. If you were to go on some crazy plan like that, it was for meat. But in the gym, you would consistently lift heavy. I mean, even if you look back in Arnold's day, and you read some of his stuff, he would say we'd pick one body part a week and we'd go as heavy as possible on it. We squat as heavy as we could. We deadlift as heavy as we could. We bench as heavy. He's like, the body got better when we did that. And we've shifted away from that because I think there's so much on this prehab, mobility, how do I feel based stuff. And, I do some of that training I have with athletes, and I do with some of my clients, but that's a rabbit hole that you can go down and not find a good way out of. We kind of gotten to a place is with a generation of lifters where, they're like, oh, this doesn't feel right, or that is a little bit sore. I think I tweaked this or that. And I'm like, yeah, you probably did. Go lift. It's okay. It's okay to not feel good. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not have everything, just coalesce into this optimum flow state that you need to lift in for the day. You don't have to drink your paraben-free pre-workout and pop a Zen and get into your mental state with your mushroom edibles. It's okay. Just go lift. And so I think there's a lot of that culture. And I think the other side is probably on, unfortunately, is probably on the social media side. It's very difficult to film everything you do if you're lifting with 4 or 5 or 6 people, because you're not the focus. The person lifting is the focus, which is you when it's your turn. But when it's not your turn, you're spotting, you're unloading weights. Like you said, you're paying attention to form. And if you're in that kind of environment, the only video you're going to get out of that is whatever your top set was. Yeah. You're not going to get all that other stuff unless you have a cinematographer with you. So I think there's a lot of that. And I think this online coaching side too, like you said, I think that's huge, where you have so many people that are training with a coach online and they're so nervous, or whatever the word is, just being anal about it, where they don't want to deviate from what that person has them said or what they're supposed to do, because they feel like it's going to mess up this master plan. And as an online coach, I tell people all the time, what I'm writing for you is a glorified guide of what you're supposed to do for the day, but you for sure have free reign to, hop in with somebody else. If somebody else is lifting heavy, I'll even say sometimes if I know a guy or a woman has a heavy lift, find someone else to do it with. And maybe, I have you to do a safety squat bar and they're using a Duffalo bar, fine, use a Duffalo bar. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And so anyway, that's kind of, I guess, my soapbox I'll get on about that. But I don't think it's good for the sport. I don't think it's good for the lifters as a whole. And I think it kind of weakens the community because you're not forming a community.
Well, here's the thing. To build on part of what you said there is such a preciousness, I guess, about equipment. About everybody's got to lift with kilo plates all the time. For some reason, I don't understand. Back in the day, there was a kilo plate set for meets, and you didn't lift with it the rest of the time. It was pound plates, and we did math. That was just how it was. The other part of it is that is really mystifying to me is that from a community standpoint, we actually have a very good community, and they're very supportive of each other, and they lift at the same time but not together. It's like toddlers parallel playing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Although they will. I mean, if someone's going for a PR set or whatever, you will get a crowd if there are enough people in the gym. But there are plenty of people who lift when there are only 3 or 4 people in the gym during the day, and that kind of feedback, even if it's just, vocal and people yelling and screaming for you, all that stuff is important. And it is. I don't understand. I don't get it. And, we've had situations where particular equipment was not available due to construction, and we had members we need this equipment, so we're going to leave. It's why would you do that? That completely mystifies me. Did you come here to train, or what? I mean, there isn't a piece of equipment out there that is a freaking Boeing 747. And I'm going to tell you need to fly this Cessna instead, and you don't know how to do that, or a Huey helicopter or something. It's not, there is no level of specificity like that going on. It's all weightlifting equipment. It's all basically the same. You don't really need a particular bar that's going to be used in a meet, because it's not really going to bite you in the ass like that.
Right.
And everybody's just so afraid. And then the point you were making about coaches, that people kind of forget that coaches work for them. They don't work for the coaches. Mm-hmm. And they, the kind of feedback of, well, this is not a direction I think we should go, or I have to do something else because of time or because of what's available or whatever. It's like, don't be afraid to freelance the program a little bit, for heaven's sakes. The world will not collapse.
I know. But it is. It's like that doom and gloom mentality. If things aren't to spec, whether that's your programming, your equipment that you're expected to be on, the timing of how all that needs to go together. I mean, and it's a, from a mentality standpoint, it kind of, to some extent, in my opinion, goes against what a really strong lifting mentality is, which is, I'm going to just lift the weight. I don't care if it's a bar, it's got a bend in it, if it's a kilo on this side and a regular plate on that side. That just makes it more fun. Like that's a mentality that you kind of cultivate, I think, when you just kind of have a strong mentality. And maybe it's easy for me to say because I am so predisposed to conjugate, in that it's ingrained in me that variations are good. Yeah. I've never seen them be bad for me, by the way. I've never seen that. I when I used to compete in powerlifting, I'll never forget my first meet ever. I pulled 640, whatever the kilo is, on a deadlift, my very first meet. And it's the first time in my life I touched a deadlift bar, ever. Yeah. I was just on whatever power bar I had at the gym that I used to work at. We didn't have any powerlifting equipment. We had power bars, and we had one SSB bar from Elite FTS. That's it. That's the only special equipment that we had. I never touched a squat bar, never touched a deadlift bar. Texas Power Bar, who I like a lot, like, they make a bench bar, special bench bar. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the hell do you do with a special bench bar? Like, I mean, again,
does it have longer sleeves?
I don't know, but I just like what knurling do you do different? What marks do you different? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's a bar for bench. And again, maybe if you're a world-class bench presser, maybe it matters to you. But for everybody else beneath that, it's kind of the same thing with this. Oh, I'm not going to compete until I can, win it or what. It's like, well, unless you're setting a world record, you're technically not as strong as the best in the world. So everything underneath that is meaningless in terms of the larger scale. It's all personal to you. So just go do it if you want to do it, and don't do it if you don't. But just make a decision here. Like don't put off because you're just waiting for this magical moment to come and you're going to debut yourself to the internet. Like, nobody cares. We're just old, Jim. That's what it is. We're just getting old, man. We're back in my day, and it's just a different generation. But it's right though. It's just, we're just old. It's okay.
I mean, you're not even that old, but you were around when the olds were younger than they are now.
No, but I mean, I am. I find myself more and more and more feeling my age. I don't mean that physically. I feel really good physically. I just mean that my opinions on things and how I speak more and more from this perspective of, I don't necessarily like the way things are going, and I think they would be better a different way. I didn't talk like that when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I have no interest in hearing new music. I'm not against it. I just don't care. If I got an hour car drive, I'm going to listen to a podcast first, maybe news radio second, and then third, a playlist that I made probably 10 years ago on iTunes. Like, those are my choices. Yeah. It's not whatever else happens to be on. I'm just not going to do it.
Well, not to put Seabass on the spot, but bring yourself up. He's not going to be able to see you, but put yourself on camera here.
Yes, sir.
And what's your take? Do you get where they're coming from, or do you get where we're coming from?
Honestly, I will say that when I was the strongest is when I was working in with, like, for example, Matt and them. Like, I would literally train with people around me that, I mean, first they would hype me up. They're like, all right, you got this, like this 500-pound squat, easy. I saw 485 move like nothing, so 500 should be easy. I think people should just work in together. Plus, and it saves more space for other people to work out.
Yeah.
That's like my main thing, where I have seen it too, where 3 people on a squat rack, they have the same exact weight,
and squatting at the same time.
They're all squatting at the same time,
and they're all using their own.
Yeah, and I like go up to one of them. I'm like, why don't you just work it with that person? And they're like, well, my rack height, and I'm like, you can just switch the rack height.
Have you been to a meet?
Yeah, I'm like, that's what they're made for.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I just don't want to disturb like the time that they're gonna take to, and I'm just like, what? That makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm like, that makes literally no sense.
It speeds. I mean, to a certain extent, it speeds up the cadence of lifting.
Yeah, but you can be like, hey, I'm gonna go in 5 minutes,
Right?
and take your 5 minutes.
Exactly. Back in the day, I mean, it was like 3 or 4 freaking hours that you were at the gym, but it wasn't because any particular lift took so long. It's that like between exercises, you would like, talk about what you're going to do next and chat up each other, and that was the social part of it. It doesn't take longer to lift in a group. The lifting part. The community part does suck up more time, for sure. But
I will say, yeah, we've had people in here stay for like 5-6 hours.
Yes.
And they're just talking for like 3.
Yeah, it happens. And that's fine. I don't care about that. People can hang out as long as they need to. They're as long as they're paid up, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But like the interesting thing too is like Seabass, like what you're talking about with like the weights, like they're all the same weight. Like when we squat on Fridays as a group, we have one monolift. That's it. That's the only quickly adjustable rack we have. We have a combo rack, but it's not a comp rack, so you don't have the levers where you can just pin it and adjust it. You have to do it kind of old school with a slide out pin. So you can't do it under load essentially. And then we have a power rack. Those are kind of our 3 rack options that we have. So we have one monolift. So in terms of adjusting the rack or the height of the bar, that's your only way to do it in a group. And we will have guys when they first start, saying, well, I'm not squatting 800 or 900 pounds a day. And you know what, Cam or Tom, and I've never squatted that, squat 700 pounds, pretty good. But it's not that. But, what we always tell them is, like, we didn't used to squat this either. And when we started, we were working out with guys who were squatting way more than us, and it made us better. Right. So we're all lifting weights anyway. Who cares if we lift a plate or 2 off the bar and pick it up and down and over and over? That's why there's a group of us. Like if you're about to lift, you get ready for your lift. We'll load the weight. We're lifting weights anyway. If I do 15 extra bicep curls, picking a 45 from the floor up to the bar and back down again, heaven forbid my arms get a little bit stronger. Like it's not going to affect my squat. Like it's just this. I think it's this mentality, and I do think it's specific to the generation behind me, of this like isolationism of like everything kind of stays within you. Mm-hmm. And again, like to your point, Jim, you can be social. It's not like you're necessarily antisocial, but it's like everything is just kind of contained within you. Like your music and like what you're listening to, like I want to listen to my music. I want to do it on my equipment. I want to do what my coach has to say. And there's just not a lot of room for variation of any kind. There's just not a lot of room for it. And it's almost like variation creates anxiety in those people. It's like, oh, I get anxious thinking about having to live with somebody else, or I get anxious thinking about not having my thing or doing it on my time. And it's like, well, that's life. Like, it's okay.
That's nodding his head over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the anxiety part.
Yeah, I think they just get like that. Now, whenever I'm training around people, I just kind of, I'm like, hey, even if there's racks open, I'm like, hey, can I work in with you?
Yeah.
And they're like, sure. And I'm like, all right, bet.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to how to make it different than it is. I don't
just
have a clue.
Just start forcing them.
Yeah. It's like, no, I'm sorry.
You're working in with
none
me.
of these other racks are available
care.
right now. That one is the one that's available. Use that. Yeah. We had like, we had 3 monoliths in the sort of peak of the ST days in this building, and people still worked in together. It was like, and it didn't, and like you said, it didn't matter that you had to unload and reload bars. It's like, who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Unless you do what I did one time and pull a plate off, forgetting that there was a quarter in front of it and dropped it right on my foot. That was bad. But in general, it's fine. In general, it's a good thing.
Well, Seabass, I don't know you, and if you're hanging out with Jim, that means I'd like to know you. So that's number one. But number two, you can fix this by just starting a YouTube channel, and just like what's the guy Anatoly, the janitor lifter guy. So you start your own YouTube channel where all you do is walk up to people in the gym and ask to work in with them, and just film it, just see what happens. I guarantee you it will be a massive hit. The reactions of people when you just randomly walk up and say, "Can I work in with you?" Like that content would be incredible. It'd go viral.
Yeah, you like mic them up. You have like a conversation, literally just like an interview. Yeah, kind of like that.
You just walk up, you just ambush them, Sasha Baron Cohen style. Just walk up, just ambush them. Hey, can I work in with you? And like they're like doing like seated bicep curls or something. Like,
they're like, what?
Yeah, man, just see what happens.
Sure.
I'd watch it. I'm just saying, I'd watch it. I'd be curious to see.
The one viewer.
That's a pretty good idea. Well, we have grabbed you for a good bit now, and I appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'll just say this. I will go as long as you guys want to go, anytime.
We'll have you back sooner.
Well, I'm just saying this is never a chore for me. This is never a thing to do in my to-do list for me. This is something that gives me energy. When you ask me to do this, I'm energized by this. This will carry me through the rest of the day and then some. Because we've talked about this before, but you and Mike are some of the absolute best people I've met since I've done this specifically, in terms of training and kind of speaking more on a larger level than just my own gym way back in the day. And there's not enough of our connection, and there's not enough time for it. And so anytime we get to make it and we have an excuse to put it on a podcast, I'm 100% down for it.
I appreciate that.
If anybody I'm just being honest. I mean, I sound old. The older I get, back in my day, the older I get, the more value and importance I have for really good relationships.
Yeah.
Because you start to understand how rare it is, and you start to appreciate it more. And that's 100% the case for me. And you and Mike are at the top of that list. So thank you for having me on. I'll do it as much as you guys want, as much as your listeners will allow. And then it's really easy to find me. It's just jacob.w.ross on Instagram. I don't do TikTok. I don't do anything else. That's the only thing I do.
Cool. Sebastian.
I'm Sebastian _Brambila on IG.
I am at the Jim McDonald on social media. This show is 50% facts, where percent is a word and 50 is just numbers. 50% Facts is a Spreaker Prime podcast in association with iHeartMedia on the Obscure Celebrity Network. And I think Mike's going to be back on the next episode. We'll see what happens. Hang on, Jacob.